Hi there folks, the Halloween festivities are finally ready to begin on this channel, so let's kick it off. Play the spooky music! That might actually be a little bit too spooky for what I'm doing in this episode. Do we have anything a little bit more friendly spooky? Yeah, there we go. If someone doesn't GIF that on repeat, I'm going to be ashamed of you.
Spooky, scary skeletons and shivers down your spine. Shrieking skulls will shock your soul, seal your doom tonight.
Yes, hello everyone, it is Halloween month on this channel. Not that you'd really notice it. Sorry that there hasn't been more content this month, but like I told you guys at the beginning of the month, I've been busy in my real life. I'm moving at the end of this month. There was the convention at the beginning of the month. I was sick all the way through the middle of it, but I do have a lot of stuff planned for the end of this month dealing with Halloween. But for now, to tide you guys over with, I went and saw Goosebumps. That's right, when I was a kid, I loved the Goosebumps books. That is really what kind of introduced me to horror. When I was a kid, if I read one of those Goosebumps books, I was not getting to sleep that night. They scared the bejesus out of me. They gave me a weird tingly feeling on my skin. Wish there was a word for that. So I used to read those, and even though they would scare me half to death, I couldn't wait to read the next one. I love those books. And this here, yeah, I realize I am older than the target Goosebumps audience at this point, but for nostalgia's sake, I wanted to check out this movie, and I'm glad I did, because this is better than I thought it possibly could be. When I heard the rumors that they were going to make a Goosebumps movie starring Jack Black, I was like, this is going to be a train wreck. I remember that old Goosebumps TV show, and even when I was a kid, I watched that thing like, oh, this ain't what was in my head. No, I think that was honestly like my first experience with having my expectations for something dashed. Like, you know, when you go and you see it's like, oh, they're adapting a book that I love into a movie. Oh, wasn't that good? That was the first time that happened to me when I watched the Goosebumps TV series as a kid. They tried, but they had like no budget, and all the actors were like, yeah, sure, this is my first time doing anything. This will be fun, right? But with this movie, they're actually doing something kind of brilliant with the adaptation of it, is that they're not actually attempting to adapt any of the stories. What it is that this is a movie solely about the celebration of Goosebumps itself. It is a geek fest. It is for all those people out there when, hey, you know this pop culture thing that you love? This is all of it thrown at you at once. Because this movie is all about this new kid in town named Zach, who is played by Dylan Minnette. And by the way, 10 years from now, when Chris Evans goes in for contract negotiations with Marvel and he's like, yeah, I want more money if I'm gonna keep playing Captain America, they're just gonna open up a door and Dylan Minnette is gonna come walking out and it's like, yeah, that's fine, get the hell out. But so his character of Zach, he recently lost his father and he moved away from the big city of New York to this little tiny rinky-dink podunk town, and it's kind of boring. There's nothing there to do except that his next door neighbor is this girl, and it's like, oh, she's kind of cute and she's about my age, but she has a father who, you know, in every single movie and TV show in a situation like this, the dad is always like, oh, you better not be talking to my daughter. This is that to the extreme. The first words out of this dad's mouth are, you ever cross that fence into my yard? I will destroy you. They don't mix words at all.
Get away from the window now.
I gotta go.
Hi. Hey, we're just moving in.
You see that fence?
Yes.
Stay on your side of it.
But one night, Zach thinks that he hears something coming from the next door neighbor's house, and so he brings along the only other kid that he has met at this new school, who is this total nerd. He's the typical nerd from any of these films. Every film has to have that nerdy best friend who's just a loser, and it's like, okay, you kind of root for him. And yeah, it's a stereotype, but I kind of like this kid in this movie, because he is just an openly admitting coward. I kind of have respect for any character that's just like, yeah, bye, see ya. Just flat out will tell you, I don't want none of this. I am scared of everything. I don't know, maybe I find them relatable. But anyway, so he takes this new kid that he met and they go break into this guy's house to try and see if the daughter is okay. And when they break in, they discover he's RL Stine. He is actually the guy who wrote all the Goosebumps books, but it turns out all those Goosebumps books, they're real. All the monsters from them exist and they are trapped inside the books, but he ends up accidentally letting a couple of them free, and then they start destroying the whole town. Now, as I said, this movie is just a geek fest. That's all it is. It is for those people out there who really love Goosebumps, and it's like, here's that monster, here's this monster. Just gotta warn you though, they're all pretty much just getting cameos. They're all just simply like, you gotta pause this movie to be able to go, oh, it's that one, I know that one. In fact, I read almost all of these when I was a kid, and I was still watching this like, I don't remember any of you. I know Slappy, and Slappy is like the main one, which makes sense. He would of course be the main one. He would of course be the ringleader, and I love Slappy in this, by the way. And I'll get into that more later, but as I said, even though I didn't really recognize any of these Goosebumps characters, it was still a great nostalgic trip for me, and I didn't really understand why until there came a moment in which they actually stopped the movie and kind of go, listen man, if you're gonna write a Goosebumps story, it has to follow this exact pattern. They all follow this pattern, and then I realized, this movie is following that pattern! I didn't even realize it. That is a great like meta commentary on the thing that they are making the movie about, is that this movie is actually following the structure of the things they are making the movie about. And yeah, it has that feel. This really felt like I was reading one of those old Goosebumps books. It gave me that feeling all over again. But the reason why I like this movie so much, it isn't just because it gave me that nostalgic trip, it's also because it's important for kids out there and for families out there to have one of those Halloween specials that they can watch. And this is a great example of that. And as I said, it's a great example for the family. Because this isn't one of those typical kids movies where it's like, oh, all the adults are really stupid and they don't know anything. Don't get me wrong, there are some dumb adults in here. The cops who pop up for like 2 scenes in this thing are hilariously stupid. But everybody else is still functional. They all like actually know what's going on. They can actually stop and go, okay, I processed this information. I'm not an idiot. Let's actually respond to this. They make sure to write every single character in here so that they are funny, so that they are cartoonish enough, but not so much that you roll your eyes. They are still realistic enough that when you watch them, you actually feel for them, no matter how small the characters might be. And I gotta say, of all the characters, my absolute favorite was RL Stine himself. It was Jack Black. He was fantastic in this. He pulled out everything he had and was like, I gotta make sure I nail this. And when I heard that Jack Black was playing RL Stine, I was shocked to say the least, because I remember watching interviews with RL Stine and seeing him on TV specials when I was a kid. Jack Black is not who springs to mind, because Jack Black, he's a physical comedy guy. He's the guy who falls down a lot. He's the guy who screams constantly. RL Stine, on the other hand, is very kind of quiet and muted, and he doesn't really show a lot of emotions. He just kind of talks like this. So I was like, how on earth is Jack Black going to play it? They didn't have him do pretty much any physical comedy. There's maybe like one physical joke involving Jack Black in this film. All the rest of it is Jack Black just being an asshole. A grade A egotistical asshole. And I have to tip my hat to RL Stine for actually going, I'm going to be portrayed in this film. How do I want to be portrayed? Just make me an asshole. This is his entire franchise, all rolled into one movie, and him being represented in it, and he was like, make me a huge joke. And it works. I love seeing Jack Black just be a jerk to all these kids. I mentioned earlier about he was all like, oh, don't you go talking to my daughter. That is the least of it. Shut up is his catchphrase throughout this movie. And every time he says it, it grows a little bit higher and he gets a little bit more irritated until at the end of it, these shut-ups he's giving are just cartoonishly overblown. But beyond that, he's got such a great ego to his character. Like, there's a moment where he actually has to stop the car to talk about how much better of a writer he is than Stephen King. Or there's a moment in which he stops to brag about how many copies of his books he's sold. And everybody's like, wait, really? You're doing this now? It is perfect. It knows exactly what it is doing with his character, and they nailed it. But Jack Black doesn't just play RL Stine. He also is the voice of Slappy the Dummy. And Slappy pretty much does nothing but make terrible, bad puns all throughout his appearance in this film. Yet Jack Black killed it with that. I hate bad puns. And yet I was laughing along with Slappy every single time that he did that. I don't know why. Jack Black just made it work. Now, that's not to say that this movie is perfect, far from it. This movie, it is all about fun. It is about a ride, it is about jokes and humor and just having a good Halloween time, and it achieves that. However, if you want anything more than that, you ain't getting it. Because when it comes to the story and the reasoning behind anything, man, are there a ton of plot holes. There are plot holes all over the place. And some of them I don't really mind because it's like, oh, how do these monsters come to life? Magic typewriter. Alright, fine, whatever. I don't need more than that. However, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you this one. Normally, I hate when people tell me plot holes because then I'm out there looking for it. This one is so big, you will not miss it, okay? You could skip the rest of this review, you would still know it's in the movie. RL Stine has to move from town to town using a fake name every time he moves because these monsters keep getting out. In this town, he has donated his old magic typewriter to the school under his name. It's like, but you're using a fake name and you're trying not to draw attention. Why did you do that? And nobody even stops to question it either. They're just like, no, come on, keep on going, keep on going. And pretty much the second half of this film is nothing but that. It's nothing but, come on, keep on going, keep on going. It is running from one thing to the next. It is fun. It is definitely fun, but fun like a dessert is fun. If you're going in there looking for some ice cream and some chocolate, good, awesome. If you're going in there looking for a meal, you ain't getting it. But in a weird way, that actually works for it because like I said, this is a fun Halloween adventure for the whole family. Halloween's all about candy. It is all about sweets and chocolates and stuff like that. This is basically the movie equivalent of that. Although I will say that there is one moment towards the end which is an exchange between Slappy and RL Stine himself. And it's one of those typical old villain, hero, we're not too different, you and I thing, except that it takes on a whole new level between Slappy and his creator, in which I kind of paused and went, okay, this actually is kind of deep for a kid's film. This actually did take on more layers than I thought. It's only for that one moment, but when I'm talking about the layers of this film, I have to point it out. Because yeah, most of this film, there isn't a lot to it, but it did have one moment that did actually kind of surprise me, so gotta give you that. But okay, so end of the day, I'm going to give this movie a B because it's a lot of fun. It really is. It's just not much more beyond a lot of fun, but hey man, sometimes that's all you need. Sometimes you don't need a meal. Sometimes you just want dessert, as I said. And I will say this, I can guarantee you this is one of those movies that a couple years from now, it will be airing on cable every single Halloween. Every single Halloween, some channel out there will go, we're going to play Goosebumps this Halloween. And it's going to be one of those movies that as you're flipping through the channels, you will come across it and you're going to stop and go, oh hey, I like this movie. I totally forgot about it. Let's put it on, I want to watch it, and you will have a good time. But okay, thank you guys for watching this review. If you want to see more from me, then click on the reviews at the end of this video. Also, make sure to hit that subscribe button because I've got more stuff coming up for Halloween at the end of this month, and it's going to be big. I'm not going to spoil anything, but I'm working really hard on it. So I hope you guys enjoy it when it comes out. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks everyone. And who can forget such films as Fargo, Back to the Future, Indiana Jones, Raging Bull, E.T., the Oscars, that's who, they all lost. But Reed is kind of like, hey, Susan, you want to talk some? You into music or anything? And she's just like, your machine is terrible. God, you almost destroyed the planet. I don't know why you're even here. And I'm like, okay, so things are a little bit tense at the beginning, except it never moves past that. Throughout this whole film, Sue just hates this mother.